Derek, I'm so excited to have
So good
you.
to be here.
Derek Rydall, you have been such an impact on my life. You don't even know. I met you. Well, actually, I found you, or you found me. I'm not even sure exactly how, but it was probably 4 years after my son Tommy passed away. So a couple years ago. And I was at a stage where I was trying to understand and put words to what I had experienced. I have been on a healing journey to heal my heart, to see if it was even possible to heal a mother's broken heart. And I had come so far, but I couldn't put words to what I had experienced. All I knew was that my healing began from the inside out. And the more I began to heal my heart on the inside, the more I began to see the world change around me on the outside. And you were the first author, podcaster, teacher that I came across who put words to it and gave me kind of spiritual laws and principles that I had no understanding of. I'm not religious. I wasn't very spiritual. And I know your teachings are not religious either. They come from a more spiritual, practical background as
We're,
well.
we're
So
just a couple of
I get
heathens,
so,
Nikki. Just face it.
I know. Oh, I know. And so I'm so excited to share you with everyone because my community and, I get so many questions from people who have lost people they love. I know that you know loss. I know you know challenges and struggles in life. And I feel like they will relate to you the way I do. Um, and so with that introduction, I would just love for you to just give a brief kind of background so people know who you are and how you came to be this teacher
Yeah.
for others.
Well, there's a couple different stories. I mean, there's the story of loss, obviously, and there's also the story of how I became a teacher. And that was also a story of a lot of crisis. Like so many people, I struggled for many years to improve my life, improve myself. And you've heard this many times. And after so many years of self-improvement, the only thing I'd improved was my ability to describe why my life was so messed up. I could tell you all the reasons things didn't work. I could tell you about what happened when I was 10 and what my dad did and what my mom did and all the reasons why. But I got more and more frustrated. Eventually, it led to addiction, drug and alcohol. I almost died from an overdose. And I remember lying in the hospital with the IV snaking out of my arm and the doctor saying, "You're lucky to be alive." And I didn't feel lucky, and I didn't understand how all of my efforts to heal my heart and get over my childhood and improve my life had led me here. So I figured I had to work harder, work smarter, attract better. And I went on this journey to improve myself at a different level. And things worked for a little while. I was an actor at the time, and I ended up doing a movie. And during this movie, everything fell apart. One of the many movies I did. And I prayed to just get lost from all of it. I didn't understand what was going on. And I went diving in a coral reef. And my first mistake was praying to get lost from it all. Be careful what you pray for. Even if you're not religious, there's power there. And I got lost. I got stuck in this coral reef. And without going into all the hairy details, I was stuck in what was like an underwater booby trap tomb out of an Indiana Jones movie. And nobody knew I was there. Nobody was coming to save me. And I was going to drown. And there was a moment where I knew I was going to drown. It wasn't like, I hope I don't, maybe I won't. It was getting dark. Sand sharks were swimming beneath me. Fire coral everywhere, spiked coral everywhere. I couldn't get out. And I had a moment of ultimate surrender. I tried to negotiate with God, even though I didn't believe in God necessarily. And I was like, I'll go to church on Sunday. I promise I'll be a good boy. And there was no let's make a deal. But there was a moment where I realized this was it. And all I could do was let go, a true let go. And there was a flash of light. And I saw that this guy I'd been trying to fix and improve was a fiction. He was an amalgamation of societal pressures and parental conditioning and peer pressure and all these external conditions. And nothing I would ever do would ever be enough for him. Nothing I would ever do would ever make him enough. But I saw simultaneously that there was another self that had never been damaged, never been hurt, never could be. And so he didn't need to be fixed. And he was also whole and complete. And so he could not be improved upon. That actually self-improvement was an oxymoron. And we'll get into that a little more detail. But this was just a flash. I didn't know what it meant. But in the next moment, I was standing outside of the coral reef on this one little patch of coral that I could stand on in all of this reef. I don't know how I got there. I'm still not sure. But somehow I got there, and I was looking down where I'd been stuck in this maze, and I realized it was a metaphor for my life. I had been swimming through this maze. I had been drowning, gasping for air for a long time. And now it just finally was manifest in full technicolor. And I slipped out over the other side, and I was free from that. But something had broken in me in a good way. Humpty Dumpty had fallen off the wall, and everything was shimmering. And I ended up pulling out of society. I tried to become a monk, didn't go well. Anybody thinking about being a monk, talk to me first. and
I love
and I went
that.
into an inner journey for a couple of years, and that's where I discovered the law of emergence. And we can talk more about it, but the basic idea is that I discovered what the vision meant, which was that there's a perfect pattern in everything. Every seed in creation, and everything comes from a seed, including you and me, has a perfect pattern. Call it a divine plan, a divine purpose, but there is a pattern, and it is perfect. And you cannot fix it or improve upon it, but you have to come into alignment with it. Just like in nature, when the conditions are right, that which is in the seed emerges. And the same was true for us. And that's what eventually led me to turn my whole life around. And also, actually, kind of when I wasn't looking, I suddenly became a teacher. People were like, "What have you been doing? How have you done all this stuff?" And little by little, that led to me eventually teaching and coaching and writing books and all that kind of stuff. And again, we can get more into that.
Yeah, it's interesting because when my son Tommy passed away that morning, I did something I had never done my whole life, and I heard myself say, "I
Yeah.
surrender." Like what you had that moment, different kind of moment, different instance, and then everything
And I
changed. Like I
everything
cracked
changed.
open in a way I'd
It
never
wasn't a
experienced
surrender
before.
like exactly, and I feel it when you say it. And I remember when you told me, and I'm getting chills right now, even as I feel into your field. It's a different kind of surrender. It's not a surrender to get something. It's a
No.
I'm getting like chills on chills right now as I just let this truth drop in. You absolutely experienced the same thing. It was the true meaning of letting go,
Yeah.
and the shell, some kind of shell did crack, and I know your journey and many people listening do. And I had a similar, and it's not only a one-time job. That's the other thing for people.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes if it's a big enough surrender, but I know for me, it's like an egg within an egg. It's like a Russian nesting doll. There's many layers of surrender. And, many, many years later, after 23 years of marriage, I got divorced. I had kids. And then a little while after that, I lost my son too. And that was another moment of literally being on the floor. For me, it was, and maybe similar, it was right in the midst of having just heard about it. And because of all the prayer work I had done, there was an immediate letting go in the midst of, the profound soul wrenching grief. And similarly, the process, I had many opportunities to let go. I lost my son, and then my I lost a fortune in a big Bernie Madoff scam. And then my wife got cancer, and then my daughter became a boy. There's a lot of loss and change. And so I'm kind of a master at letting go and a master at how to be with crisis and big change in a way that does crack you open, that allows you to become more of yourself rather than less. And not just to restart from where you were before, but to have a quantum leap and an evolutionary opportunity to become more of who you've always been meant to be.
Why do you think, I don't mean to
No, not at all.
digress, but because you're speaking, it makes me think of why do you think when we go through such big losses or big challenges, even when you're growing and learning and surrendering to each one, like why do you think more keep coming? Like,
Well, not everybody has signed up for the Job experience. So that was, I remember now when I had the opportunity, the e-ticket ride, I'll take the Job experience. So far, no boils on my skin or anything like that, but I think it depends on your journey. I don't think it has to be the case. I do believe that suffering and crisis is a natural part of not just the human experience, but the natural experience. Even in nature, certain trees need forest fires. They actually need that conflagration because it heats the serotinous glue around the pine cones. It breaks open the cones. Without the forest fire, those seeds would never be released. Certain plants need rocky, difficult soil. Without the difficult crisis in the soil, they won't activate certain enzymes that make their bark hardy enough to survive and thrive in that particular climate. Chickens are in eggs, they're stuck in there, they have to peck and look for food even when they're starving and everything is gone and they're in their own waste. And it's the pecking and the searching and the struggle that strengthens their neck and lung muscles, cracks open the egg, and allows them to be released and live and thrive in a larger reality. If they didn't have to struggle, they would die. Their neck wouldn't be strong enough, their lungs wouldn't be strong enough. So for whatever reason, nature's created that. Even the Dalai Lama said, "I wish for America more suffering." So there's just, that's just part of it. But my experience is we do ultimately have some degree of choice, which is we can choose voluntarily as a way of life, which increasingly I've attempted to do after being dragged through the mud, kicking and screaming. We can choose voluntarily. More than anything, I want to know the truth. More than I want to fix, change, heal, control, manipulate anybody or anything, including me. I want to wake up. I want to know who I really am. I want to know why I'm really alive. And I want to live the most authentic, purposeful life I possibly can. When you make those kinds of intentions as a way of life, and we'll talk about a few practical strategies as well, you set yourself up to be in the flow of the current of evolution and of life, versus if you're like having those impulses, you need to tell the truth here, you really want to do this, but you keep telling yourself, I can't, I will when this happens, if only this was different, if only they changed. Now you're against the flow of life. You're saying no to your yes, and you are creating this tension that must eventually break out in some kind of crisis.
It just seems sometimes like enough is enough. I say to Tommy sometimes, like if we signed up for this, which I have to believe we did, then I'm going to do the best job I can, because I'm not doing it again. We're going to do it as right as we're going to get it.
I'm not retaking this class, man. I'm going to sit here until I get it. I'm going to do, even if I have to sit in detention or homework or extra credit, I am not retaking this course. I understand.
Exactly. A lot of people ask me what was the first step I took after loss and how I've been able to move forward. And you say something in your book, Emergence, which I just love, and I've written all over it, is you say, act from where you want to be, not from where you are. And I love that, because I think that's what I did. Was I saw something that I wanted to do. I wanted to honor him. I immediately, that horrible day, had two places where I wanted to go, where I wanted to create, for them out of this loss, for my older son and my younger son who's still here. And so I'd love for you to explain a little bit, act from where you want to be, not from where you are, because I think that might help people begin to move.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I go a little further into this, when you suffer a crisis or loss, even a serious setback, like you get fired from your job or, whatever, it's important that we give ourselves a little bit of space, and in some cases, a lot of space. It's like you fall in a sand trap. The first thing you don't want to do is try to get out. So, because it'll suck you deeper. And so you want to be, the first step in any crisis or loss is be gentle with yourself and be kind with yourself and be patient with yourself and breathe and create some space so that you're not reacting. And again, depending on the loss, that can be more. So I just want to be very clear to anybody, if anybody might be on here who's suffering through a significant loss, it can be very, very difficult, if not seemingly impossible, to jump into strategy and tactics to make your life better. When I lost my son, luckily I had years of practice, meditation, mindfulness, all of these things that allowed me to witness Derek utterly and completely be annihilated.
Yeah.
And I was literally on the floor crying and sobbing for 2 years straight. Every day. I didn't miss a day. That's how disciplined I am. That's how committed. I'm so committed to my grief. And I would literally be walking in the street and suddenly be on my knees in the middle of the street. So whatever, and again, that's sort of a PTSD aspect of deep grief, loss of a child. But whatever you're at, I just want to be very clear: gentleness, kindness, patience. But in terms of this principle, there's a couple ways I'll talk about it. Well, the first idea is, as I said, there's a perfect pattern of infinite purpose and potential within every seed in creation. And love is the force that meets the deepest needs of that seed. And the self-love is being willing to create the conditions for that within you to bloom and to blossom and to flower and to flourish. And so because that's the case, because it's already in you, now there's many different teachings, whether it's Jesus or Buddha or Lao Tzu and the Tao, and they all teach the same thing, that the whole thing is in you, not in your body, but in your consciousness and your soul, whatever you want to call it. But it's all in you: the kingdom of heaven, the Tao, nirvana, reality, the infinite storehouse of riches. So what that means is that whatever's missing outside of you is actually something that's inside of you you need to let out. There's more of you that needs to come out. And one of the ways to begin to tap into that is, rather than focus on where we are or where we've been, we have to be willing to ask, what's the bigger idea for my life? What's the bigger possibility? What's the bigger potential? Because otherwise what's going to happen is we're always trying to get somewhere. We're trying, like you said, we're trying to get to a better day, a better life, more of this, more of that, less of this, less of that. But when you understand you've already got it all, then you're not on your way to a better something. You're actually already coming from it. The tree branch is not on its way to the tree. It's coming from it. The wave of an ocean is not on its way to the ocean. It's coming from it. The ray of a sun, not on its way to the sun. It's coming from it. You are a ray of the sun. You are a branch of the tree. You are a wave of the ocean. You are coming from life, from love, from abundance. The whole of infinite good power is in you, and you are on your way to a greater expression of it. So that's the foundational principle. I am, not I was, not I will be, but I am. I have it all. Now, again, that's not in your physical body necessarily. That's not even necessarily in your personality, in your mind. It's in a deeper place, but you have to first accept there's something in me more than my condition. Something about me is bigger, is more powerful. Let me know what that is. Again, more than I want to fix, change, heal, control anything, anyone. I want to know the truth about me. I want to know the truth that makes me free. I want to know who and what I really am and why I'm alive, what I'm made of, what I'm made for. That kind of intention and question. The question is the quest you're on. That sets you on a quest to discover yourself and to uncover yourself and to release it. As it says in the Gospel of Thomas, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And so we have to have the courage and the commitment to discover what's in us. And it's not based on what's outside of us. And then to bring that forth. And one other thing I'll say about this, maybe not the only other thing, is another way to think of it in practical terms is whatever the largest body is, it creates a gravitational pull. So if you have a much bigger body of story in your past, or a much bigger amount of energy around what's going on in your present, your gravity is pulling you down and backwards. But if you have a much bigger vision for your life, a much bigger desire or a compelling future, however you want to call it, now the gravity is pulling you up and forward. It's growing you. And so that's the other way to think about it, is it's already in you. You have to have a bigger, more compelling reason to live or future than what you've got before, or even what's going on now. And that will keep lifting you. Now, sometimes that happens spontaneously, as I think it did for you, Nikki, somewhat. That's grace. And sometimes you have to do the digging. When you're in the desert, you have to dig a deeper well. A deeper
I would
well.
say, yeah, I would say, when Tommy passed away, I had a startup business experience. I had a 22 career doing startups. So my instincts were how to restart something, how to create something out of nothing. So that was maybe why I was able to that day quickly say, I will not, I wanted
Yeah.
to die, but I won't
Yeah.
do that yet before I
Not
honor
yet.
my
Let's see
son.
it.
Not yet.
I'll put that on my potentially to-do list. It's already
100%.
so it's a big to-do list,
I
but I'll add
cried
that. Yeah.
like you. I cried every day for 2.5
Yeah.
years. I mean, 2.5
Yeah.
years is a very specific number, but it was every day
I cried for
deeply.
2 years and 8 months.
It's dark and it's deep, but
God, it is.
when I was able to have a simple goal like I will honor
Yeah.
him, that was enough to take me to where I wanted to be, not where I was.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that phrase. You also say in your book, I've heard you say it before in some of your teachings, to evolve, we must take our attention off the problem and place it on the opportunity. Because if we just keep focusing on our situation, it's like this, you get in this
Yeah.
loop of the same thing over and over, and we can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And so maybe you want to expand upon
Yeah, and
that.
it's similar to what I was saying. And it's really a new
Yeah.
way of it's a new way of life. These are not like tactics and even strategies. These are principles. And so wherever you're at, again, be patient, but understand it's about the whole hypnotic spell of the human experience is that we show up here empty shells, blank canvases, tabula rasa, and we have to add everything to us to make us something. And it's exactly the opposite. We showed up here with everything. And we are experiencing not reality, but we are experiencing our beliefs about reality. We're experiencing reality through the filters of our perception. And so, but all of it's in us. And so the world is, as all of you've heard, it's a mirror. It's a way to see and understand more and more and more what's going on inside of my mind, my consciousness, my heart, my soul, so that I can understand myself more, so I can know myself. That's number one. Above the Oracle of Delphi in the original academy of mystery schools, it was know thyself. And step two, to thine own self be true. That's the wax on and wax off of personal transformation. Know yourself, be yourself. Know yourself, be yourself. I think I can. I think I can. Know yourself, be yourself. And everything is conspiring to help you to know yourself first, to know what you're made of and what you're made for, right? Because there is a reason and there is an essence, and this world didn't give it to you, and the world cannot take it away. So you have to know what that is. So when you're in the midst of these conditions, the old human belief, the hypnotism, the Maya of it all, that all the great masters are trying to snap us out of, is that you're just this separate human and everything's happening to you. And the deeper metaphysical, mystical, spiritual principle is you're not in the world is in you. And everything is happening for you to understand what you're really made of and made for. There's a deeper opportunity here. And the opportunity is first and foremost to become more free. To know yourself more fully is to become more free, to become more unhooked from all of the influence and the way the world is pushing and pulling you like a puppet on its strings. Every crisis, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Every crisis is an opportunity to cut some of those strings. But at first you cut the strings, the puppet's like, and I just want to be a real boy. But as you are willing to go, there's a deeper opportunity for my freedom, my authentic life, and then ultimately more joy, more love, more peace, and then in the final analysis, to be an ever greater expression of the light or of love. That's the purpose and the opportunity for every single human being, to know themselves more fully so they can become free of the world's influence, free of the dream, of the hypnotic spell, so that they can be themselves more fully. And that means more joy, more generosity, more love, and more service. That's the opportunity behind every crisis, every challenge, every morning you wake up. That's the opportunity. But there's a specific, and if you understand that just principally, now that's the thing you have to practice. When you go to Starbucks and they're out of your favorite syrup, what's my opportunity? When somebody cuts you off, what's my opportunity? So you got to play with the little stuff first before, but that's a new way of looking at the world. All of life is conspiring for my freedom and my fulfillment, that I may be an instrument of greater flourishing for all that I meet. That is the only game in town. And so that's the principle, but you have to practice it first by, again, setting that intention, and then creating the time to sit with yourself, to journal about what's coming up, and to keep listening and developing the ability to really hear, what do I really need here? What is really trying to emerge here? Who do I really want to be in the face of this and on the other side of this? Even more than what I want to do, who do I want to be? So those are a few ways to be with that. I know we're kind of jumping. We could do a whole day on this, on just that one question.
I know. Yeah. It makes me think, after Tommy passed away, in loss, it's so easy to say, why me? I'm the victim, and I did many days and many hours of that.
Still do sometimes.
Yeah, me too. I
honest.
still look up and go, how did this it happened to me, and why us?
Yeah.
But I really try, and I did fairly early on to do what you said, which is, okay, what is there I'm supposed to get from this? Like, what is there to learn from this? Of course, I'd rather have my child back than learn anything. Like, we understand that. But that wasn't a choice I had. So
exactly.
I had to choose. Am I going to sink with the pity and the loss and just poor me? Or am I going to open my eyes and my ears and my own intuition and my own senses and try to figure out what more I was meant to become from this? Absolutely. And once you make that choice and perspective, things get a lot more interesting and a lot more hopeful, yes, even if you have no idea where they're going. And so to add to the next layer of your teachings, at least for me, is...
Actually, before you jump in, Nikki, can I just say a couple of things real quick? Because I think there's what you did there, and what we're talking about is when it's part of it is taking your attention off of the condition in terms of what's the deeper possibility and potential here. And part of it is also, eventually it leads to taking your attention off of yourself. The antidote for depression, anxiety is, in fact, the recipe for depression, anxiety is just keep thinking about yourself. That's actually literally the textbook recipe to make anybody depressed and anxious. And so by asking about the bigger potential and the bigger idea here, you begin to take yourself off your present condition, and you also begin to lean into purpose, into greater meaning. And that is the recipe for having enough space that you don't just want to die, but also beginning to allow a little bit of an opening where life can flow again, where life can flow through you again. That's the key. And I do want to say it's absolutely important, again, like you said, you'd rather have your child back, or maybe you'd rather have the millions of dollars you lost, or the husband or wife, or the whatever. And so and even if you don't believe this is true, even if you don't think there's a higher power or a greater purpose, the fact is you have two choices: choose life or choose death. Oh, I got a little AI thing going on. Choose life, peace. Choose life or choose death. And so, and that's our choice in every moment. Are we going to say yes to life or no to life? And again, I'm with you 100%. Everybody that's listening, that's like, you don't understand, Derek. You don't know my situation. I probably do, because I've spoken to literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. But that's the choice. And so it's like, and sometimes you do have to find a reason to choose life, at least for today. But just know that that's always our choice. Am I going to choose life? Am I going to choose life? And that will lead to these bigger ideas and bigger insights and stuff like that. But that's really what it ultimately comes down to, very fundamentally. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What's your next question there?
So my next kind of principle that I love, that I use all the time, and I think about a lot is if you're not getting what you want from the world, give more of it to
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, so that's based on the core principle of emergence. Whatever is missing is what you're not giving. And we talked about that earlier because it's all within you. So if you want more of anything, you have to find a way to give more of it, to circulate more of it. And it's the law of circulation, which is you cannot give what you don't have. You have to have it first. You cannot keep what you don't give. You have to give it away. And you cannot sustain what you don't receive. You have to receive it back. It's a full breath in. You have to take it in, and then you have to give it out, and then you have to let go and let it come back in again. And there's a cycle, right? So when there's a cycle, there's circulation, there's abundance, there's life is flowing. Wherever there's a circuit in the circulation, life is growing and thriving. Whenever the circuit's broken, starts to stagnate. A body of water becomes a swamp or an empty dry bed. Any part of your body, anything, anywhere in the world that the circulation stops, stagnation and ultimately death begins to happen. So the key, and it seems like we're a victim. Well, I don't have the love in my life right now. I don't have the respect from my boss. I don't have the companionship. I don't have the appreciation or the validation, or I don't, whatever the thing is. And so we end up waiting for it, or we go try to get it, or we end up beating ourselves up for not being enough of it. And so this principle is whatever's missing is what you're not giving, and you start by giving it to yourself. So how might this look? Let's say you're in a relationship and you're always complaining, or at least feeling he or she is not respecting me enough, or validating me enough, or appreciating me enough, etc. You can ask yourself, if I loved or appreciated or respected myself, how would I treat myself today? If I validated or loved or respected, fill in the blank, if I trusted myself, he doesn't trust me, she doesn't trust me. Okay, if I trusted me, how would I treat myself today? Whatever the thing is. And how would I treat myself? What would I start doing? What would I stop doing? How would I talk to myself? What would I begin to lean into? What would I commit to? How would I show up in my relationship or relationships? How would I show up at work today? How would I show up to this issue right now? If I loved myself, if I respected myself, if I truly knew my value, now what that does is it opens up and it gives you the guidance for how to begin to activate that quality within yourself. Because that's the only place it is. That's the only place it's ever. It's not because somebody says words to you that you feel good about yourself. It's because of the meaning you've assigned those words that you give yourself permission to feel the qualities of your being that are always present. You're not allowing yourself to feel them. You're not accessing them. So you can start by giving it to yourself. Then you can go wherever you've been trying to get it, or wherever you think it's missing. Now you have something to give there. Now let me circulate my love, my respect, my appreciation for my boss, my kids, my husband, my wife, whatever. And what you'll begin to notice is it grows bigger. It gets bigger. There's a beginning to have circulation. And then you also now begin to be on the lookout. Where's the love coming from? Where's a little respect or love? And that person opens a door for you. You're like, haha, there it is. And that person smiles at you. Oh, there it is. It's like, where's Waldo? It's like a game of Where's Waldo? And now you've got the circuit. And then you go back again. If I love myself, if I respected myself, and you start building a new habit of how you treat yourself. And ultimately, people treat you the way you train them to, based on how you treat yourself. The whole world is reacting to you based on how you've been thinking about yourself and treating yourself. So this gives you 100% sovereignty and agency and power to fall completely in love and in like and in trust and in respect with yourself. And everything unfolds from there.
Yeah, it's like my journey of healing. I knew and I learned along the way that healing started on my inside with my heart, and the world began to change around me the more I began to heal on the inside. But it's the same principle. The more you believe in yourself, the more you start to see the world believe in you. The more
And and and
you
and
bring
not
out,
just believe in yourself, but with this little practice, like if I believed in myself, how would I treat myself today? What would I
yeah,
do
yeah,
today? And if you sit with that in the beginning of the day and you meditate on that, and you do it day after day, you'll start to hear things you've forgotten, things you remembered, things you know you want to do, ways you know you want to be or not be anymore, conversations you want to have and you want to stop having. All the guidance is there. And you've been waiting to believe in yourself, then you'll do those things. Or waiting for others to believe in me, then I'll start or stop. It doesn't work that way. It's exactly the opposite. It's what I call the big reversal or the great reversal. The true principles of life are almost exactly the opposite. Whatever you're waiting for, you're waiting with, and you're weighing it down, and you're holding it back. And if you want more to come into your life, you must find a way to let more life come out of you.
yeah. So it's similar even with healing. You're not, the world isn't going to
Correct.
heal you. Nobody on the outside is going to heal you. But when you begin to examine things that make you feel lighter, things that begin to heal your own heart, and you take the steps and you one by one, simple, small,
Yes,
then you start to build energy around that.
exactly.
And then the world starts to mirror the healing and starts to feed more of it to you. It's the same thing. I just love that you expand it to every area
Yes.
of our lives.
And you
And
feel, and ultimately you feel better even if the world doesn't. I mean, the ultimate
yeah,
liberation is I feel great. I don't know about you. It's like
yeah,
people say, how's your day
yeah,
going? I go, I don't know how my day's going, but I know how I'm going about my day. Right?
yeah.
It's
I love
like,
that.
how's life treating you? I don't know. I haven't asked life lately, but I know how I'm treating life. So you
Yeah.
start to walk around empowered. And again, healing,
It's very
it's very
empowering.
empowering. And healing is a process. It's important to know healing, first of all, there's no such thing as actual healing because nothing is actually broken, as I said in that original vision, but it feels like it because what's been broken is one of your concepts of life, one of your stories of life, one of your premises of life has been broken. This shouldn't have happened based on my belief or my model, or this should have happened. So a concept has been broken. Your map doesn't work anymore, and or you realize it never really did. That's a crisis. When the experience bumps up against our map of reality and it doesn't match, we have a crisis. We have anxiety. We have a healing crisis. And it's not about let me just try to contort experience to fit my map. It's, oh, wrong map. I need a new map. Like like there's a bigger relationship here than father and son the way I thought it was. There's a bigger relationship.
Mhm.
And my prayer in my particular journey was to expand to the highest truth about love and life and oneness and all that. And I'm not inviting anybody else onto that particular path, but the fact is the only reason I'm suffering and have suffered with grief and loss around that particular loss is because I had, like so many people, and it's normal, a very small idea of what love looks like, or what family looks like, or what fatherhood looks like, or what this thing looks like. And from the bigger philosophical, metaphysical truth, the love of father and son, or mother and son, or human to human, the actual love, the actual relationship there is so much bigger and so much more than our little human myopic boxes we put them in. Just like we're experiencing now with all the different stuff going, even with my daughter becoming a boy, that was a shattering of my map. And it's like, oh, and that took something. I'm like, look, I lost my son. I'm not gonna lose my daughter too. That took something. But it's like, oh, that's just bumping up against to my map of this is the box love needs to be in for it to be love or to be parent and child. And it's like, no, it's not. God's like, or life's, whatever your idea is not, it's like, don't put me in a corner. Don't limit my love. Don't limit my power. Don't limit my beauty. Don't limit my glory. Don't limit the infinite possibilities of you. You are infinitely more. Life is infinitely more. And the crisis is coming to crack you out of the matrix that you've been stuck in. The chronic crises and problems are a sign you've been trying to cope in a world that is now too small for you. And it's inviting you out of the egg. It's inviting you to a larger world. Again, it's not easy. The way is straight and narrow. But I can guarantee you my capacity to love, it's like exponential. And my creative capacity, the flow of life through me, exponential. Again, there's still a human part. And it's like I would sell it all in a minute to have my child back. I would sell it all in a minute to have a lot of things back. But I know from a greater place of wisdom, from an evolutionary place, that I am a bigger instrument of love and compassion and patience and wisdom and beauty and creativity and generosity and service. And that is the fruits of real growth and real evolution as a being. And I still got my relationship with my child. It just looks different.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. And I'm sure your son is very proud of you.
He was probably my father in a previous life, and he's finally the kid gets it.
Finally, we're going to do it. We don't have to do this again. Remember, Derek, we're going to nail it this time.
Exactly.
So this is another principle that has helped me so much, because when you're a very, resourceful person, or you're not used to asking for a lot of help, when you have challenges, community means a lot. I have learned how important community is, and it just becomes more important to me every day. And you say to allow people to give to you is one of the most generous things you can do for someone, and that it's actually selfish not to ask them for help.
Absolutely. And that's part of that 3-part law of circulation, although this is definitely one that I've had to learn. And it's only really it's certainly thanks to my desire and my intention, but really thanks to my wife and my friends who relentlessly would not let me go hide in my cave and try to do it all myself. They saved my life in a lot of ways and taught me that I could be completely vulnerable, completely exposed, and they'd still love me and they'd still support me, rather than the old model that I developed growing up because of my core wounds, which was I had to be the man or be strong or hold it all together or become something to be lovable, to be worthy, and to be safe. And so I spent the first half of my life becoming something. And really specifically, although the prayer had been happening for years, the real practice started with the death of my son, was my journey of unbecoming. So when somebody says, "Why, Derek, you're so unbecoming?" I'm like, "Why, thank you. Mission accomplished." So there's this unbecoming, this unraveling. And for me, and maybe for some of you, if this is your problem or your challenge, you had to learn to protect yourself. You had to learn to do it yourself because the support wasn't apparently there. That's a good thing. You've developed a lot of strength. You've developed skills. You've developed structure. You're probably able to get stuff done. There's a lot of really great things about that. But it's only one side. It's mostly the masculine side of the equation. And the whole feminine side, the ability to receive life, the ability to be filled up with life, and the ability to experience being completely held and supported by life. And without that, you are increasingly like a branch cut off from the tree, and it just withers and dies. It becomes firewood. So we have to, at some point, realize I of myself cannot do this. It's like the 12-step thing, ultimately what you realize is I'm powerless. And we don't have time to get into the shadows today. Maybe that'll be a part 2, but that's an important thing to understand, that humanly you are a channel of infinite power and brilliance, but you're also completely powerless, completely nothing. You cannot hold it together, but you can hold it all together. That's why there's more than one of us here. So yeah, being willing to ask for help, being willing to receive, if this is your challenge, if that feels selfish, or if that feels vulnerable, or if that feels threatening, this is your ultimate, this will become one of your happy places. It will become a very, very powerful place. I know it's been one of the biggest areas of transformation for me. I've experienced real unconditional love because of my willingness to ask for help, be supported. And one funny little thing is, if you haven't had a lot of practice asking for help, what you might believe is you don't need help. Or you might feel like somebody asks you for help, you're like, I don't know what I need. I'm fine. I got it all. So like it actually takes time to actually get clear. Where do I really need help? Where am I really stuck? Where am I struggling? Or where is it not just a need, but it would be nice. It would just be nice to get some help. It would just be nice to not have to
Yeah.
do it all myself or hold it all myself emotionally or otherwise. So it's a practice. But I can tell you for me, it's been one of the most powerful things. And it took for me, again, getting knocked down on the mat to finally go, okay, I need help.
Yeah. After Tommy passed away that very day, I
Yeah.
surrendered, as I told you. And then I heard guidance from, I don't know who or
That
what,
was me
but
actually, but it's okay. We'll talk about that later.
maybe, maybe. And, and it was, my house was filling up. I was a very private person. All of a sudden my problems were everybody's problems. And I didn't really know what to do. And this guidance said to me, let them help you. This is not just about you. And I was so desperate and confused. I was like, okay, whatever that
Yeah.
means. I just knew there was something bigger. And when you say allow people to give to you is one of the most generous things you can do for someone, you follow that up, and these are not exactly your words, but I'll paraphrase it, that by asking for help, you're actually allowing something new to emerge from someone
Yes.
else that's been waiting for them to have the opportunity to
Yes.
give to you. And so we don't have to feel
Yeah.
bad anymore for asking for what we need. It's actually giving them an opportunity at a soul level that they may not consciously ever
100%.
understand
100%.
to bring something more out of them.
100%.
It's like that's the
Yeah.
circulation, right?
Exactly. You got chills again. I'm glad you pressed on that a little bit harder. Yeah. Nobody in the world is your source, but everybody is your channel. And you are nobody's source, but you are everybody's channel. The source is the source, whether you call it God, consciousness, the self, the I am, whatever, the center of your being, the well of being, the what happens is when you are willing to ask for something from somebody, and and especially if there's a match where there's inside of them the potential or the desire to give or to serve or to express, or even to put it in a whole different category professionally, asking for the sale, asking, what happens is you're not taking money from them, you're not taking time from them, you're not taking anything from them. Like you said, that allows their channel to get bigger. When they can give of themselves, when they can invest in themselves or invest in you or share and circulate more love and more life, now their inner divine power plant starts to get geared up even more, and they walk away with more. This is why I really don't like how often people talk about relationships merely in transactional ways. A transactional relationship is often you have something you need, I have something you need, I'll give you this if you give me that. It's like a quid pro quo, and you walk away having traded something, and in some cases one person has less of one thing now and the other person has more of the other. But relationships ultimately are transformational, not transactional. One plus one, or even one minus one, if you're giving something to each other, equals infinity. No matter what, one plus, one minus, one divided by equals infinity. It's an opportunity because there's only one for more of the one to emerge. If it emerges through you, through me, this way, giving it, receiving it, it's just more of the one. And it's not a zero sum game with a piece of the pie taken out. It's an
Uh-oh.
infinite sum game. Oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah, for people that have lost, if anyone, is listening and you've lost, I do get a lot. They don't have a lot of community, and it's not always the quantity, it's the quality. Just based on this principle, the one thing I can say is open up and ask for help, because people don't know what to
Yes.
do in a time of crisis. But if you tell them what you need, they're so gracious and so grateful to be able to help,
Yes.
and they keep coming
Yes.
back. But when we close it off and we don't ask and we don't give them the opportunity, they go away because they don't feel needed and they don't know what to do. just like I would not know what to do. I would not have known what to do to help someone else who had lost to the degree I had, now I know.
Yes. Can
But
you,
I didn't at the time.
yeah, can you still hear me, Nikki? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw you said,
Yeah.
uh-oh, a minute ago. Okay, so,
You froze
oh,
for
oh,
a second, but then you
okay,
got
great.
okay.
Yeah, and one thing I will add for people, especially if you're suffering through a significant crisis or loss, it's very important, especially if you're the kind of person who is more, just to put a label on it, on the codependent side, meaning you care more about what other people think or think about you than you do about yourself in some cases. It's really important you don't move into the caretaker role either of other people, where you feel like you need to give them a chance to be needed, because there's a lot that can also be a little tricky terrain, and it can be very harmful when you're grieving, especially if it's a significant loss. You definitely want to let people help you. You want to ask for help, but you get to be selfish. This is actually not about the other person. If it's good to understand principally, if you're afraid of being selfish, as Nikki said, that you're doing them a favor, that it's actually an act of generosity to ask for help, because it allows them to step up, to love more, to give more. And some of them don't know how, and they're just looking for an opportunity to love you and to sort of take care of you in some way. So it's a beautiful, generous act you're doing. However, or in addition, this is about you. If you're in a real crisis of grief, if you've lost somebody or significant challenges, you get to be selfish, which means you get to not let them make it about them, and even more, to let you not make it about them, right? Oh, they just want me, they want to just help me, so I'll just let them, even though it's creating more stress and anxiety for me to deal with everybody wanting to help, or whatever that is. Just, I want to make sure that's important, because having dealt with a lot of people grieving, not only myself, it's easy to slip into taking care of other people, making other people feel comfortable around your suffering and your grief. So I just wanted to add that little nuance for some of you, so that you make sure that you remember, I don't have to take care of anybody. I can have them take
Yeah.
care of me, but I get to be selfish until I'm strong enough, or whatever. And most people will be fine with that, but I just needed to add that piece.
Yeah, I think healing is selfish. And I think it requires us to dig deep and go inside, like you said,
Yeah.
to let something new come out.
Yes.
Because we're not going to be the same after any kind of loss. I don't think we're meant to be.
Yeah.
And that's where the selfish internal work has to take place.
Absolutely.
What's one thing, just to finish up, unless you want to add anything, but
I
what
do
is
see a
like,
lot of questions coming. I don't know if you ever answer any of the questions,
yeah,
but go
take
ahead.
some.
But first of all, what's the one thing you're going to ask me? No, we can.
I was going to say, just what's your biggest piece of advice in terms of the first thing to do, or one thing to do after loss, that, people just, I get a lot of people who haven't, been able to get themselves back up after a decade or two, much less a day.
Yeah.
From your experience, is there a first
And if we're
step
talking
that,
about loss of a loved one, and especially in any loved one, for some people it could be the loss of their pet. It can feel like a child. I mean, I don't know. I've lost pets. It did not feel as bad as I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I've experienced loss in various ways. Losing my child was like he took my heart with him. There was a hole in my chest,
yeah,
and it was like my soul being ripped out through my mind, through my heart, piece by piece by piece. So it's kind of beyond words to really understand the depths. I mean, you understand, and people here who have lost children understand. It's a certain kind of loss that is it, because the love itself is not of this world, in my belief. It's agape love. It's unconditional love, and so it's a very, very big deal. But whatever the thing is, it can be very difficult. But what I would say is, first, especially if it's new, or relatively new, you must honor the grieving process. You must have space for whatever the grief looks like for you. And then secondly, not right away, but there's a certain point where or you're beginning to get the feedback that doesn't mean you have to stop grieving. It just means you have to start living again.
yeah,
And that's where you get back to the things we talked about. You need to begin to have a more compelling future than your past or even your present. You need to begin to ask these questions. What's the bigger opportunity? And you need to start putting some structures into place. It can't just be wandering around. There has to be something specific that you are structured in, because that energy, otherwise it creates chaos internally or externally. And again, in fact, I think you wanted me to maybe share some things with people to give you more support around specifically how to build these structures, how to design a way of life that helps you to come more fully alive, that helps you to be more aligned with what is trying to emerge in you, whether it's in crisis or not. But I've applied these principles in this practice, as I've said, in some of the greatest crises you can have, and they 100% work. So if you go to my website, actually, if you go to DerekRydall.com / I think it's / AI, there's some free trainings there that aren't on my website that have like how to develop this way of life, how to design your life, how to begin to reclaim this mastery of yourself. But if you also go to my site on the free trainings, there's more free trainings there. There's a lot of free stuff there, and my podcast, Emergence. I give away 95% of all my stuff. So there's lots of free trainings. If you want more deep dive, more specific step-by-step, go there, get those for yourself. And don't overdo it, but it gives you something to be in, to create some structure, to create a target. You have to have a target in your life. You have to have a focus. In fact, last point here, the word sin is an actual archery term. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're missing the target, or you don't have a target at all. And because life has evolved you, the reason we have little tiny eyes and the ways our eyes are designed and everything is we are target-based beings. We are designed to have a place or a goal or a thing to which we are devoted, dedicated, and striving or going towards, unfolding towards. And if you don't have that, anxiety, depression, and chaos is the order of the day. So this will help you to get clear on what that is. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be something. And then how to organize and begin to align yourself so that you can take better care of yourself, but also you know what to do each day. And like I said in the very beginning, you will create the conditions for that is within you to emerge again and to flower again. Even if you're in winter now, if you take care of the soil in your soul and you take care and design a life that helps you grow, when springtime comes, you will bloom again. I promise you. I guarantee you.
Yeah, I'll just say that for everybody, Derek's workshops and his free, all the free gifts that he gives, that's how I met him. I took one of his free courses for an hour. I learned so much, and I listened to his podcasts, and they really inspire me and they empower me and they remind me how much power I have over my own life. And I highly recommend you take a look at some of his stuff if it resonates with you. There's a couple questions. I'm going to combine them really quick because we got to end. But someone asked, how do you find a project that does not have to be so giant and public? And I'm assuming that means my project of Tommy's Field and how I've honored my son. And I'm combining it with the next question was, is it okay to isolate and embrace solitude? And here's like what I want to say, and then please add anything that you'd like, Derek, is that my son was a soccer player. I was already in the process of building a field. I didn't know how I was going to fund it. I told him I wanted to do it. He loved the idea. It naturally was, this was who I was. This is what our family loved. This is who we are. And I think that it was just a natural, aha, we're going to do this. Everyone wanted to pour their grief into something that represented my son and our love and his love of life. So that is what we created. Whatever is your way of honoring. I always just say that is such a beautiful first step, because it's from love that we can take that first step forward. And honoring, to be honest, my vision was to build this field, but it was also just to embrace the essence of who he was every day. The smile, the laughter, to learn how to do those things again was a way to honor him. And so it doesn't have to be a big project. It doesn't have to be so giant in public. And in order to do any of that, I had to isolate for multiple hours a day to fill myself up, to grieve for years. And I still do. I take a lot of alone time to be able to be out in the public for just a couple hours.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I just wanted to answer
well
that
said.
question.
Yeah, and obviously sometimes people's great losses lead to big projects, but that's not the point. It can be a completely, there's always something, again, there's always the opportunity for growth. The first and most important opportunity is your own, as I said, personal liberation, greater freedom, greater fulfillment, greater love, greater peace. And then usually that leads to you being of greater service or love or light to someone, even if it's just to your grandchildren or to your partner or to your clients. It doesn't have to go beyond just your presence in this world, having gone through that and become more loving, more kind, etc., is changing the whole world, just so you know, even if nobody ever knows your name. And so that's the first thing. But if you want to do something big, do it. If you want to be a machine like Nikki, go for it. But then, and then the solitude, yeah, there's a balance, right? It's the in-breath and the out-breath. If you're not taking an in-breath, you don't have any breath to breathe out. The in-breath is solitude. The in-breath is time alone. The in-breath is self-contemplation and just what you might call downtime, the rest, all these things. If you have sound, only sound, but no rest, that's called noise. But when you have the right rests, the right spaces, that's called music. And so the solitude, the stepping back, the retreating, those are the rests, the pause that otherwise makes what is noise into music. You need that. It's a dance, it's a balance. And for some of us, we need more of that as a way of life. If you're more introverted, for some of us, we need more of the external, but you still need both. You need to breathe in and breathe out. And not just once, but as a way of life, you have to discover what is your unique design that allows for you to be continually refreshed and renewed. You need to drink from the fountain of you again and again and again. Drink from the well of your being again and again. And then you share that water with the world. You share that whatever comes forth with your loved ones. And then you go back. So it's a dance between those things.
Thank you for letting me share you with my community. I'm going to obviously repost this for everybody and give them some links to some of your resources and your books. I've listened and read it all and highly recommend for anyone just looking to better understand themselves and their place in this world. And obviously I don't say overcome challenges and loss, but persevere and grow with them and learn to find peace and love and joy again. Yeah. So you've been a huge impact on my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Much love and blessings to all of you. I look forward to seeing you, hearing more from you. And you couldn't be in better, more amazing hands than in Nikki's hands.
Thank you. By the way, is that a pink light behind you?
It is. I think it's a multicolored light. Yeah. It changes.
I thought maybe you had like a purple aura.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, shoot, I should have told you. Oh,
I thought maybe I was seeing auras now.
You are. That's my aura. That's my secret aura machine. It's been revealed now. Everybody thought I was just glowing, but oh well.
I love it. Have a great day.
You too, my dear.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Okay.